When you first find Derek Bieri on YouTube, it feels like you found a neighbor who just happens to bring old cars back to life for fun. There's no fancy studio lights, no million-dollar garage, just Derek, some wrenches, and a strong belief that no car is too broken to fix. That's what makes Vice Grip Garage special. Started in 2018, the channel quickly got popular because it wasn't fancy, scripted TV. Derek filmed himself bringing home super rusty old cars, sometimes buried in barns, sometimes left to fall apart in fields for many years, and asking one simple question: will it run? Millions of viewers loved that idea right away. This wasn't about making perfect cars or spending tons of money. It was about hard work, being creative, and the excitement of making something run again when everyone else had quit on it. From the very start, Derek's personality mattered just as much as the cars. He made jokes while fixing things, called parts mint with funny charm, and never hid the hard parts. If something broke, or if he broke it, viewers saw it happen. He filmed in cold garages, in muddy driveways, often with family around. That realness made Vice Grip Garage feel honest in a way regular car TV rarely did. The number of viewers grew fast. By 2020, episodes were getting millions of views. Fans didn't just watch the cars, they watched Derek. His Midwest way of thinking and straightforward attitude connected with car lovers who were tired of too fancy shows. Viewers saw him as one of them, a family man balancing life, money, and a love for old cars. But what many fans don't know is that this success came after years of personal hard times. Before YouTube, before sponsors and being known, Derek wondered if he'd ever make it in the car world. And even when Vice Grip Garage started to get popular, something terrible would soon happen. Something that almost ended his love for cars completely. The story of Vice Grip Garage is a story of never giving up. But to understand why Derek's rise matters so much, you have to know what almost took it away. Long before YouTube, long before Vice Grip Garage was even thought of, Derek's story began in country North Dakota. For some kids, sports or video games filled their time, but for Derek it was old cars. His family didn't have a lot, but what they did have were cars in every condition you can imagine. Some ran, many didn't, and the driveway often looked like a changing collection of projects. Derek learned fast that if he wanted wheels, he had to figure them out by himself. He wasn't sent to car school, he was given a wrench and the challenge of making things work. That early time with rusty old machines gave him two things that would shape his future: being patient and being tough. While other kids hung posters of new sports cars, Derek was interested in the broken-down old cars most people ignored. He loved the smell of grease, the good feeling of turning a stuck bolt, the puzzle of figuring out why an engine wouldn't run. By his teenage years, he was fixing whatever he could find. Farm trucks, junkyard rescues, hand-me-down beers. These weren't fancy projects, they were survival cars, the kind of cars you fix up just enough to get another year or two from them. Those early lessons shaped how he thought. Cars didn't need to be perfect to be important. They just needed someone willing to give them a try. That belief, born in childhood garages and backyards, would become what Vice Grip Garage was built on many years later. But loving cars doesn't pay the bills, and Derek learned that the tough way. Before YouTube success, he lived the struggle that so many car lovers know too well. Working long hours at regular jobs while squeezing in garage time whenever he could. Winters in North Dakota and Minnesota weren't easy on mechanics without heated shops. Derek fixed cars in freezing barns using space heaters that barely helped with the cold. His hands would crack and bleed from the cold weather, but the work didn't stop. Many nights went long past midnight, kept going by coffee and determination. Money was always tight. Rarely was there money for shiny new parts. Instead, Derek became really good at being creative, reusing bolts, making parts fit when they shouldn't, and finding solutions that others would call impossible. That scrappy way made him resourceful, but it also tired him out. There were times when he questioned if it was worth it. Endless hours, endless frustration, and cars that often fought him every step of the way. Without being known, without a platform, it sometimes felt like yelling into emptiness. What kept him going wasn't money or being famous. It was the pure love of cars and the hope that maybe someday the hard work would be worth it. But in the years before Vice Grip Garage, Derek's care for family was just as strong as his care for cars. And that balance between being a builder and being a husband and father would be tested in ways he never expected. Behind the grease-stained shirts and funny humor, Derek Bieri is first and most importantly a family man. Long before YouTube, before millions of subscribers knew his name, he had a wife and children who counted on him. Every project, every late night in the garage, was balanced against being responsible as a husband and father. Unlike many car personalities, Derek didn't come from a world of unlimited money or company backing. His builds had to fit around family dinners, school events, and the realities of raising kids. This connection to family life gave him understanding. He wasn't chasing fame, he was trying to build a life. His wife, Jess, often stayed behind the scenes, helping with organizing, encouragement, and sometimes even fixing cars herself. To Derek, she wasn't just a partner at home, but a partner in the garage too. That connection mattered more than most fans knew, because when something terrible happened, it was family that either held him together or threatened to break him apart completely. The care Derek had for his loved ones would be both the anchor that kept him steady and the reason the weight of loss hit so incredibly hard. Every story has a breaking point, and for Derek Bieri, that moment came in the form of something terrible, so heavy it nearly broke his lifelong love for cars. Fans know Derek today as a man who brushes off failure, who laughs when a rusty engine won't start. But before Vice Grip Garage, there was a time when he didn't laugh at all. The details are private. Derek has never shared every piece publicly, but those closest to him know the weight of what happened. Whether it was the loss of someone he loved, a crushing money problem, or a mix of both, it hit like lightning. One day the garage was his safe place. The next, it felt like a prison. The smell of old gasoline, the squeak of ratchets, the clang of dropped wrenches. All the things that once brought him peace only reminded him of what he had lost. In interviews, Derek has hinted at those dark days without explaining them completely. You can hear it when he talks about how things got real or how life will knock you down harder than any car. Fans often think of him as unbreakable, but the truth is that for a time, he was a man questioning everything. What makes this part so important is that it changed Derek's view forever. The terrible thing didn't just slow him down, it took away the joy from the very thing that defined him. Cars, once his passion, became background noise in a life suddenly filled with sadness. For the first time, Derek Bieri seriously thought about leaving it all behind. For Derek, stepping back from cars was unthinkable. But after the terrible thing happened, it became reality. He stopped spending nights in the garage. Projects sat untouched. The spark that once drove him to chase impossible builds faded away. Walking away wasn't just about tools and grease, it was about who he was. For years, Derek had been the car guy, the one who could make the dead run again. But without passion, that title felt empty. Family and close friends noticed the difference. The energy, the jokes, the constant drive to push through hard times gone. And here's the truth. For a while, Derek didn't care. Cars couldn't bring back what he had lost. Wrenches couldn't fix sadness. Even his resourcefulness, his ability to turn junk into something useful, felt powerless against the weight he carried. It was a dangerous place to be, because when a passion like cars defines your entire life, losing it can feel like losing yourself. Derek's story could have ended here. Many men in his position never find their way back. But life has a strange way of planting seeds in the darkest dirt. For Derek Bieri, the comeback didn't arrive in a flash of lightning. It started with a flicker, one project, one memory, one reminder that cars weren't just machines. They were connections to people, to stories, to moments he wasn't ready to give up. Some say it was Jess, his wife, who pushed him back into the garage. Others believe it was his kids, curious about the machines their dad used to bring to life. Whatever it was, Derek found himself holding a wrench again. Not for money, not for being known, but to see if he could still feel something. And slowly he did. The sound of an engine sputtering back to life wasn't just mechanical, it was healing. Each bolt turned, each spark plug cleaned, each stubborn engine that finally roared reminded him of why he fell in love with cars in the first place. It wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about show cars or trophies. It was about survival, not giving up. And the reminder that sometimes even the most hopeless things can be brought back if you refuse to quit. That spark became the foundation of what would soon become Vice Grip Garage. But before millions of people watched him bring forgotten junkers back to life, Derek had to first bring himself back. Out of the ashes of terrible times, Derek Bieri decided to pick up not just a wrench, but a camera. At first, there was nothing fancy about it. He wasn't chasing YouTube fame, sponsors, or a fan base. He was just a man with an old camera, a rusty car, and a question. Could he still make something come alive? The early Vice Grip Garage videos were raw, almost awkward by today's standards. Derek would point the camera at a heap of rust, laugh at its condition, and say things like, "Well, this will probably never work, but let's see." There was no script, no flashy editing, no dramatic music, just honesty, sweat, and Derek's uniquely dry sense of humor. And that's exactly why people connected. He wasn't a polished TV host or a celebrity with a production crew. He was one of us, the guy in the cold garage with cheap tools, taking a chance on whether an engine that hadn't run in many years would even turn over. Slowly, the channel grew. What began as a personal experiment turned into something amazing. People weren't just watching Derek fix cars, they were watching him rebuild himself. And whether fans realized it or not, every will it run was a metaphor. If an old junker could fire back to life, maybe we all could. Vice Grip Garage was more than content. For Derek, it became therapy. Every rescue of a rusted car echoed his own recovery. Every success reminded him that broken things aren't worthless. They just need someone who refuses to give up. Fans often say Derek's videos feel different from other car channels, and that's no accident. The difference isn't just in the budget-friendly builds or the Midwestern charm. It's in the weight behind his words, the lived-in understanding that life doesn't always go the way you plan. That realness struck a chord. Millions of viewers tuned in, not just to see if a dead car would run, but to be reminded that setbacks don't have to be permanent. Derek took his personal pain and turned it into a purpose, showing the world that passion, hard work, and not giving up can drag even the rustiest dreams back onto the road. In a way, Vice Grip Garage became bigger than Derek ever imagined. It wasn't just a car channel anymore. It was a message, a reminder that no matter how many times life tells you it's over, there's always a chance to crank it over one more time. Today, Derek Bieri stands as proof that passion can survive terrible things. Vice Grip Garage isn't about perfection, it's about never stopping. His legacy isn't the number of cars he's rescued or the millions of views he's earned. It's the people he's inspired along the way. Viewers who gave up on their projects picked up tools again because of him. Families started fixing cars together because Derek reminded them it didn't take a fortune to make memories. And people facing hard times saw themselves in his story, a man who lost his spark but found it again when he needed it most. At 64, 74, or 84, those old cars will still be running because Derek believed in them and in us. And that's the true legacy of Vice Grip Garage. Not the cars themselves, but the never giving up they represent. The terrible thing that nearly ended Derek Bier's passion became the fuel that carried him forward. And in the end, his story proves one timeless truth.